Hello everyone, and welcome to today's edition of the Hillbilly Files. Today we are in Williamson, West Virginia at the corner of 5th Street, or 5th Avenue and Pike Street. That's 5th right up here, and this is Pike Street directly in front of me. That's 4th down here. The date is Saturday, July 21st, 1962. A man named Mose Blackburn and his wife had gotten into a fight outside of a restaurant they owned here on Pike Street. The police were called. That's the police department right there, as a matter of fact. Of course, it wasn't there back in the day. This is, like I said, 1962. Anyhow, the police were called. Lieutenant Garnet, Richmond, and Patrolman Howard Hatfield. In case y'all didn't notice, there seems to be a Hatfield in most of our stories. This is the area. You can't help that. There's a Hatfield in every story, it seems. Anyhow, they arrive on the scene in their cruiser, right? When they get to the restaurant, they find Mose sitting in one car and Ora, his wife, sitting in a different car. Hatfield gets out of his vehicle and he starts toward Mose's car. Moses, he draws a pistol. Richmond, he gets out and he circles around Mose's vehicle from the other side. Mose, he pulls his gun and he fires a shot through his windshield. He hits Richmond in the face, right below the left eye. A total of 20 bullets were fired in just the next few seconds, with Mose getting hit in the arm and arrested when additional officers arrived on the scene. Both Richmond and Blackburn were taken to the Williamson Memorial Hospital's emergency room. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Richmond was dead within 20 minutes of arriving at the hospital. A 43-year-old veteran of World War II. He left behind a wife, a daughter, and a stepdaughter. He was buried at the Mountain View Memorial Gardens in Huddy, Kentucky. Blackburn's arm wound must have been fairly serious because he was still in the hospital on July 24th. A news article said he'd been scheduled to be released and arraigned on Monday the 30th. But Mose, he wouldn't be going to this arraignment. Now we're going to go up here just in a second. I'm going to show you some stuff. I'm going to take you up here and show you some wild stuff. This is a true story that not only inspired a legend, a West Virginia legend, but it also inspired a ghost story. That's the old hospital on the hill. Great big old creepy thing sitting up on the top of a mountain overlooking the entire town. Now I'll show you the view from up there just in a second. Thought I'd come over here and show you this real quick. Okay, now this is the old Williamson Memorial Hospital. Now I brought you guys up here once before on our story about Tony, the Medal of Honor recipient who died here, was killed by his family. I brought you guys up here for this one, for that story, but same story, or different story, same building. They bring both men up here to the hospital, to the emergency room, which was around the side on the lower end. This section right here, where the little enclosed section, this wasn't here at the time. I see a lot of people, and we've actually seen videos on YouTube that have the window on the side here circled because it was a 3-story drop, but that's not the case. You see, I was born in this hospital. My grandparents died in this hospital. I know this hospital's layout, very, very well. I'll put it that way. I know it well enough. You see those windows right there? There's 3 across the top, 3 across the middle, and then this building right here, this extension. This was added years later. You see, when they had him in there, he was in one of those rooms back in there. And according to the story, While in the hospital, Mose was guarded by 2 sheriff's deputies who took turns guarding him. The deputies were Enoch Fillinger and Maury Blair. On Sunday night, July 29th, Mose asked Fillinger to get him to go to the nurse's station and get him a drink of water. When Fillinger walked out of the room, Mose ran out of his 3rd floor room, ran down the hallway. He crashes through the 3rd floor window, that one right there, right dead center of your screen, at the end of the hall, and lands on the sidewalk, lands on the ground right there. Mose had tried to commit suicide ahead of his Monday arraignment, but unfortunately his fall left him in critical condition, not dead. They came back out here, they literally picked the guy up, carried him right back up to his room, put him right back in his same bed. He had survived, but he was going nowhere at this point. He died at 2:15 a.m. on Friday morning, August 24th, 1962. In a newspaper article from the day, the Mingo County coroner said he had died from abscesses on the lung. The death certificate backs that up, saying that the cause of death was fluids built up on the area between the lungs and the chest wall from a broken rib he had gotten from his jump from the hospital window. When he jumped, he broke a leg, he broke a jaw, and had several bumps and bruises, on top of that, and also the bullet hole, still yet in his arm. So he had all this. They took him and they buried him. We're going to go up here in a little while and see if we can't find his grave too. But he was buried at the Davis Memorial Gardens in Stone, Kentucky. Now these are actual facts backed up by newspaper articles and death certificates. A lot of people have speculated over the years whether or not Moses really jumped out of that 3rd story window or not. And if not, why? Many people have said that he didn't jump on his own. The claim is that he was thrown or pushed out of the window by one of the police officers in retaliation for killing one of their own, killing another police officer. That might be possible if the window that Moses had jumped from was in his room. If he was thrown out of the hallway window, right there by the police, another patient or a nurse would have seen that for sure. Even if Moses did jump out of the window on his own, you see, a man in his 50s, I can see where he might choose suicide over spending the rest of his life in prison, or even get the electric chair. You see, at the time, we hadn't abolished the death penalty until 1965. So that was still on the table, right? Now, there are several old legends about this building, including the nurse who never clocks out and all sorts of other stuff that are associated with this building right here. I don't know if you guys have heard of Destination Fear. All sorts of TV shows and stuff like that, documentaries, have been here shooting video at this very hospital, okay? Now, there are stories leading up that Mose was tormented with nightmares about something. He said he was afraid. Was he afraid of the police officers, or was he afraid of the supernatural? Could the ghost of Garnet, Richmond, who suffered a terrible death at the hands of Mose Blackburn and died just 2 floors beneath him, have been haunting him? Both men were taken here to the same hospital, treated by the same doctors, yet one of them was dead within an hour, never to see his family again. We're going to see if we can't find both grave sites today and tell you the rest of the story. Now this is Stone, Kentucky. The house you're looking at right now, a beautiful little piece of property right there, we're actually semi-familiar with this place. Henry Ford, yes, the one and only, he actually owned that house at one time. The little theater right up here called the Red Robin, that he built about 100 years ago. But anyhow, like I said, we're here. So I'm gonna go out here. I'm gonna head out there here just in a second, and I'm gonna see if I can't find Moses' grave. I wanna show y'all a couple things, and we got one more stop too after we leave here. But wish me luck. This isn't a real big graveyard, but it's pretty, as you can see, it's out in the woods, and most of the graveyards out in the woods are, you know, we're pretty familiar with this, and we know where it's at. We were up here once before, but you know, we hadn't really go to it and didn't know Mose was there, wasn't looking for him. So we'll see how long it takes to find him. Wish me luck. I found him right there. It took me a minute. Actually took me about 30 minutes. I started out down there by the church, all the way up through there, found several Blackburns, not the same ones. All the way down through there. It's a very old cemetery. I saw some back there going back to the 1830s, 1850s, that kind of thing. So it's really old cemetery. But anyhow, Mose Blackburn's grave is right here. Mose Blackburn's body is right here. Now this one took quite a bit of effort to track down. I got lucky today. Like I said, I didn't have to hunt too long. I got pretty lucky today. Just happened to walk by and look down. There he is. One and only. All right, we're gonna go from here. I've got one more stop I want to show you. We're at the officer where he's buried at. And this is Mountain View Memory Gardens, just a few miles down from the other grave from where we just left. And Heather and I had kind of discussed this a couple times, that when we do these stories, you know, we need to include not just, you know, the person who did whatever, but the person who, I guess, for lack of a better word, the victim in the case. You know, Garnet, like I said, he was a veteran. You know, he was just doing his job, trying to make a living and trying to diffuse a domestic dispute, a couple fighting. And so, you know, he goes out to try and diffuse this situation, and this is what happened. You know, it's sad to hear these stories. It's sad to tell these stories. It really is. It's very sad to tell these stories. But right here is Garnet Richmond's grave. Garnet Richmond, West Virginia, Private 16th Tank Battalion, World War II, 1919 to 1962. He was still a young man. He still had life to live. He had things to do. You know, and we just kind of think it's important, you know, when you do these stories, these legends and locations and stuff, to remember the people who got caught up in these legends and locations as well. This was a good man. He didn't deserve this. You know, it's just sad the whole thing's sad all the way around. But this is, I have an aunt right over there, and I have some friends back up there in the corner as well. So I'm familiar with this graveyard. I knew where it was. I didn't know where Garnet's grave was. We had called the memorial garden. We'd contacted them and told them what we were doing and that we were looking for his grave. They couldn't give us an exact location, but they gave us a general idea near the mausoleum right there. So I just came over and started walking the lines one at a time, all the way up and all the way back down until I found his grave. There is no way that I was going to tell this story without finding Garnet's grave. Rest in peace, young man. It's kind of strange. I'm never at a loss for words, but stuff like this does. You know, there's nothing you can say to make it any better. You know, all you can do is tell the story, tell the legend as it is. As the story leads you, it will lead you to its own conclusion. And right there is the conclusion to this story. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time on the Hillbilly Files. Have a good day. God bless you. On my way back home, and Heather called and asked me to stop and pick up an order at Walmart. And so I'm sitting here on the way home. I just left Garnet's grave, and I was thinking about this, you know, the whole story. And we've only been doing this for a few months, and you know, it's just strange that how you leave thinking one thing, but by the end of the day it's a totally different animal. I left the house thinking that this was a story about Mose and what he did, but I was wrong. This was Garnet's story. Wild, isn't it? This is a story about Garnet. It's not about Mose at all. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all have a great day. Thanks again. Bye-bye.